Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another live stream. I hope you all are doing really well. It is Monday morning. Apologies for the lack of live stream on Friday. I was a little bit busy. I was in work in the morning and then I had a couple of things going on in the afternoon. So I was a little bit manic and there wasn't really much going on anyway, was there? We're obviously in the middle of an international break at the moment, so Everton players have been playing left, right and centre for their countries. We saw Seamus Coleman playing for Ireland, who we're going to talk about today. We saw Luca Dean playing for France, Jordan Pickford obviously playing for England as well. We know that, of course, Everton winger Demarai Gray has been nominated for Barclays Premier League Player of the Month for August. 2 goals in 2 Premier League games for Demarai Gray for Everton, and he's had an absolutely fantastic start to his Everton career. So Demarai Gray has been nominated for Player of the Month award for August, and Rafa Benitez has been nominated for Manager of the Month for August as well. Undefeated start for the Everton manager, 2 wins and a draw. 3 if you'd include the Carabao Cup game, to kickstart his Premier League campaign as Everton manager. And Rafa Benitez has also been nominated for Manager of the Month for August. So other than that, there wasn't really an awful lot to talk about on Friday, to be honest with you. Not an awful lot going on. We've had a couple of bits and bobs over the weekend. James Rodriguez being linked with a move to Turkey over the last couple of days or so. Obviously, we know the Turkish transfer market is still open, as is the Portuguese and Russian transfer market, I believe. And, you know, whilst we were all sitting here a few days ago saying, right, okay, James Rodriguez is staying at Everton now. He hasn't been able to move to Porto. Hopefully he gets his head down and works hard. The rumours are coming out the wood now that he could be moving over to Turkey. There's a lot of rumours linking him with a move potentially to Turkey. So we'll talk about that later on in the live stream. And I suppose the biggest bit of news to talk about today is the news that Seamus Coleman has picked up an injury on international duty. The news that none of us wanted. The news that none of us, we hope we wouldn't get. But the news that I think it's fair to say Evertonians probably expected. Seamus Coleman, I don't want to say has got a tendency of getting injured on international duty, but has got a history of going away with Ireland and picking up injuries that we just don't need him to pick up whatsoever, and then coming back to Everton and not being able to play Premier League games because of said injuries. Ireland confirmed last night that Seamus Coleman has been ruled out of Ireland's FIFA World Cup qualifier against Serbia due to an injury. I believe he picked up the injury in their game against Azerbaijan. Let me get the full article up. Apparently, Cyrus Christie has been called up to the squad to replace Seamus Coleman. And yeah, he has been ruled out of the game. So that's all we know so far, is that Seamus has been ruled out of Ireland's upcoming World Cup qualifier against Serbia through injury. Exactly the news that we didn't need, of course, given the fact that Everton have just failed to bring in a right back for the second summer, on the bounce. You could even argue third summer on the bounce, that Everton have been targeting bringing in a new right back and haven't been able to do so. And obviously the hope after the transfer window, we all sat here on Thursday and said the hope now is, with the lack of right back coming into the football club, that Seamus Coleman can stay fit for as long as possible. And, if he does need to come out, John Joe Kenny's good enough to step in and do what he needs to do when he needs to do it. But for the majority of the season, Seamus goes untouched, no injuries, no fitness issues. He can play as many games as possible. And although we might have all said that and hoped that would be the case, I don't think any of us truly believed that would be the case, to be fair. I think we all knew deep down that there'd come a point in the season where Seamus picked up knocks or had to come out the team through fitness issues or, whatever. And little did we know 2 or 3 days later, Seamus Coleman's picked up an injury on international duty and therefore will miss Ireland's next game. Now, as I said, we don't know the extent of the injury. It might just be a knock. It might be a precautionary measure for him to be ruled out. He might have said, listen, I've got to, I've hurt myself here and I don't want to risk picking up a further injury and therefore not being able to play, for my club when I get back off international duty. So I'll stay out of this one and, bring somebody else in, this, that and the other. Or, we don't know whether it's an injury that's going to keep him out for a sustained period of time. One thing we do know is it's really, really not ideal whatsoever. Really, really not ideal whatsoever. And obviously, as soon as it was announced yesterday afternoon, there was a lot of blame, put at Marcel Brands' door. And look, fair enough, to be honest with you, because, again, ultimately, whichever way you look at this summer, and I think this summer's been a positive for Everton Football Club. I think we've strengthened our squad. I don't think we've lost anybody that was, had any sort of impact on the club. Yes, you can talk about Moise Keane and him being young and this, that and the other, but let's be honest, Moise Keane never really did anything of note in an Everton shirt for us to sit here and say, oh my God, look at what we've lost. Yes, he might go on and be an absolutely world-class talent, but he hadn't shown that in an Everton shirt. And obviously we've strengthened by bringing in the likes of Damari Gray, who started really well, obviously Andros Townsend, who's worked really hard since coming into the football club, Solomon Rondon, who will come in and be a decent backup, obviously the two goalkeepers that have come in. So it hasn't been a particularly awful transfer window, but Marcel Brands certainly has failed in that department of going out and bringing in a right back. We knew coming into this transfer window at the start of the summer that our number one priority has to be a right back, because if you think back to last season when we went 7 wins on the bounce and it was all brilliant and Spirit of the Blues was top of the charts and we were top of the league and it was dead good, the thing that turned that form, and I'm not putting the blame on Seamus Coleman per se with this, but Seamus picked up an injury. Again, I think it was in October, might have been in the derby actually, and he had to come out the team, and it was when Ben Godfrey stepped in, and it really just, it threw the balance of the whole squad, it threw the balance of the whole team up in the air, and that was what sort of knocked our form a little bit. Again, I'm not blaming Seamus Coleman for that specifically, but what I'm saying is Seamus picking up that knock at that time and having to be taken out the squad, and Carlo Ancelotti to have to try and work around that, obviously by putting Ben Godfrey in at right back, and Alex Iwobi played there at times, didn't he? That really disrupted the balance of the team, and it really disrupted the flow of the team, and therefore we went on a bad run of form, didn't we, in November, and we couldn't win a game of football to save our lives. So Marcel Brands should have been looking at all of that last season and thinking, okay, Seamus might be good enough when he's fit to start for Everton, but if he picks up a knock, if he picks up an injury, what we don't want is for the entire balance of the side to just be thrown in the air because Seamus Coleman can't play. So that should have been a reason for Marcel Brands to have been targeting a right back as number one priority this summer. And maybe Marcel Brands was targeting a right back as number one priority this summer. Who knows? Maybe he just failed in achieving that. Maybe he just failed in bringing one in. But what we do know is that, again, we're very, very weak in that area of the pitch. John Joe Kenny, for me, listen, can John Joe step in and do a decent enough job? Hopefully. I personally don't think John Joe Kenny's good enough. I don't, and I know some Evertonians will tell me otherwise, and I know some Evertonians believe he is. Personally, for me, I don't think John Joe Kenny's good enough to be Everton's right back going forward. If Everton want to be challenging to get in Europe, if Everton want to be challenging with those sides to break into the top 6, top 7, etc., I don't personally think John Joe Kenny's good enough to be a member of a side that's doing that. That's not me saying I don't think he's good enough to step in and play a couple of Premier League games if need be, while Seamus Coleman's, having a rest or out injured or whatever. Maybe he is good enough to step in and do that. But in a long-term sense, I don't think John Joe Kenny is. And the worry now with the Seamus Coleman situation is what is the extent of this injury? Is he just picked up a knock that's that will keep him out of a game in a couple of days, or has he picked up an injury that's going to keep him out for weeks, months? And more worryingly, Everton are now in a situation where Seamus Coleman might come back from international duty with a little knock, and Everton might go, do you know what, Seamus? We've not really got anybody else to step in. We've got a game against Burnley on Monday night. Are you able to play? And Seamus, being the professional that he is, and the experienced player that he is, he'll probably say, even if he's not, he'll probably say, yeah, I'm all right. I'll step in. I'll do my job. I'll do what I need to do. Now, if he's got an injury, if he's picked up a knock, if he's not 100%, and he's having to play for Everton whilst not being 100% because we haven't got any other option, that's only going to make that injury worse. That's only going to make that situation worse. And we saw it obviously last season with a couple of players, Abdoulaye Doucouré, Alan, what happened when Everton were so persistent on playing them because we had nobody else to play in those areas. Abdoulaye Doucouré, we all sat here on a number of occasions last season and said, if we're not careful with Abdoulaye Doucouré, he's going to pick up an injury because he's literally playing every single minute of football that Everton are playing. What happened? He continued to play. And again, I'm not blaming that on the manager or the player or anyone, because, look, we didn't have anybody to come in at the time to replace him. We didn't have Jean-Philippe Gbamin fit. And obviously, we had a manager who was very, 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 reliant on Abdoulaye Doucouré as a player. But we all knew that it would come a point where he picked up a knock or he picked up an injury. What happened? Most important point of the season, towards the back end of last season, he picks up a knock and he's out for 8-12 weeks, something like that. Same with Alan. Alan come back from injury, and because we desperately needed him to get back into the team, he was pushed straight back in when he clearly wasn't ready, when he clearly wasn't fit, when he clearly wasn't sharp enough to get back into the team. And then we saw a period of 3-4 weeks of Alan not up to scratch whatsoever, not up to pace, performing badly, because he'd be thrown straight back in after being injured. And this is what we needed to avoid this season, because that was ultimately one of the reasons as to why we failed last season with league position, with challenging for Europe. We failed because we were so heavily reliant on certain players, and when those certain players weren't 110% fit or weren't ready to to give it 110%, we didn't have any other option, so they were just thrown in there. It was just like, go and play, do what you can, and that wasn't enough. And I fear that, again, the irony of Everton failing to bring in a right back 3 or 4 days ago, and then our number one right back, our club captain, the player who we were all sort of thinking, well, let's just hope Seamus can go a season without picking up any knocks. 2 or 3 days later, picks up an injury on international duty, and here we are, sitting here on the live stream talking about what do we do next? Where do we go from here? What do we do? The hope, obviously, is that, like I said, the extent of this injury isn't too serious, and the hope is that Seamus Coleman can, get back up to fitness and be ready for Burnley on Monday night. But even if he does get back up, even if we're sitting here on Monday night and Seamus Coleman is in that starting 11 for Burnley, is he 110% Seamus Coleman in that starting 11, or is he in there because we've got nobody else to go in there? And some would say, well, we've got John Joe Kenny, so if Seamus wasn't fit, John Joe would be in there. Maybe, and maybe John Joe will play on Monday night and give Seamus a little bit of a rest. Who knows? But the point of this situation is we shouldn't be in this position. We really, really shouldn't be in this position. We should be in a position where we're now looking and going, okay, Seamus has picked up a knock on international duty. Unfortunate. Hopefully he recovers well, but we don't need to worry about that as Everton, because we've got Ainsley Maitland-Niles, for example, who we were heavily linked with, or we've got Denzel Dumfries, or we've got Max Adams, who can come in and step in, and we know they're good enough to take the reins, and they're good enough to play in the Premier League. And this isn't just a dig out to John Joe Kenny. I'm not just sitting here saying, completely, again, overlooking John Joe Kenny. Maybe John Joe will get an opportunity in the Premier League this season, and maybe he'll prove a lot of us wrong. Maybe we'll prove a lot of us wrong. Maybe we'll all be sitting here in 3-4 weeks' time saying, oh my God, John Joe Kenny's been absolutely brilliant. But I just can't see it. I can see a more likely outcome being that Ben Godfrey makes his return to Everton after the international break and makes his return at right back. I can see that as more of a likely outcome than John Joe Kenny playing right back, or Mason Holgate playing over there at right back, and obviously Ben Godfrey playing in the centre of defence. So yeah, like I said, the irony, Tom says in the comments, talk about irony. That's it, the irony of this situation. Everton failed to bring in a right back after us all moaning for months and months and months about how we need to bring in a right back. We don't bring in one. Everyone's a little bit, unhappy, and this kid said to this, that, and the other, but it's sort of settling. There's a little bit of, well, we'll wait and see. Hopefully Seamus can go a season without picking up an injury, this, that, and the other. And then a couple of days later, Seamus has picked up a knock on international duty, and we don't know how long he'll be out for. We don't know how long it'll take for him to recover. Seamus is, again, he's not old by any stretch of the imagination, but he's in his 30s now. When you pick up a slight knock in your 20s, you might be able to get over it in a week, 2 weeks. Look at Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Dominic Calvert-Lewin's just been playing for 3 weeks with a broken toe and a thigh injury. He withdrew from the England squad because he had a broken toe and a thigh injury. Those injuries were sustained, or at least one of those injuries we know of was sustained before a ball was even kicked in the Premier League. So Dominic Calvert-Lewin has played 3 Premier League games, scored 3 Premier League goals, including 2 really good penalties, and he's done all of that with a broken toe and a thigh injury. He's in his early 20s. He can do that. He can have a rest for a couple of weeks, and hopefully he'll be back for Burnley on Monday. all sort of sorted. He could play through injuries like that. The older you get, again, your body doesn't let you play through injuries like that. Your body doesn't let you play through little knocks, little, injuries, little pulls, little, things like that. Your body doesn't let you. When you're young, you're 20 odd years old, yeah, you can do it. But, again, Seamus Coleman's into his 30s. He struggled with injuries all of his career. He's had a really, really bad leg break at one point in his career as well, which, again, he really struggled to come back from. So, it's all good saying it might only be a slight knock, but how long will it take Seamus Coleman to recover from a slight knock? How long will it take Seamus Coleman to be back to 110% after a slight knock? It might take, a younger player a week, 2 weeks. It might take Seamus Coleman 4 or 5 weeks. And we've got nobody else to put in that position whilst he's out injured other than John Joe Kenny, who might get a go and might be like Cafu and absolutely brilliant and scoring Panenka penalties left, right and centre every 10 minutes. And we might all be sitting here going, oh my God, John Joe Kenny is the second coming of Dani Alves. If Dani Alves had a love child with Maradona, he's unbelievable. But how likely is that to happen? How likely are we to be sitting here, after Burnley and talking about John Joe Kenny putting in a 10 out of 10 performance? And that's not a go at John Joe Kenny. It's, if anything, it should be used as motivation for John Joe Kenny to get his head down and say, no, do you know what? If Seamus is injured, I'm going to prove that I'm good enough to be a part of this Everton team. But I just don't have that. I just don't have that confidence. I don't. And again, it's massively ironic. It's massively ironic because we've all just been, again, we've spent the last week talking about how Everton have failed in the department of bringing in a right back, which we have. Nobody will disagree with that. We can sit here and put the transfer window. Just because we haven't signed the right back doesn't mean the transfer window as a whole has been a failure. Because the players we've brought in have been amazing value for money. £1.7 million for 5 players, 4 of whom have heavily Premier League experienced and good Premier League players. And, like I said, the outgoings, we haven't really lost anybody that had a massive impact on the club anyway. That is a good transfer window. The right-back situation is shocking. Absolutely shocking. And had we have brought in a right-back, it would have been a much better transfer window in a lot of people's eyes. So, it's just irony, isn't it? Anyway, let's get into the live comments. If you are enjoying the live stream, by the way, please do hit that like button. It does only take a second. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. Why not? It's literally free to do. We have recently hit 4,900 subscribers, so we are flying towards that 5,000 now, and we're trying to hit it as soon as possible. So if you could subscribe, that would mean a great deal to me. And if you could hit the share button and share it on social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, MySpace, whatever people are using these days, that would be absolutely brilliant as well. Abigail says, morning Cam, time to give Kyle John a chance at right back. I can see us going for Aurier. Not Kyle John for me. Not Kyle John for me. Not experienced enough, too young. And I think it would be throwing a young player in at the deep end, even though he can't swim with no armbands. And I'm not saying that Kyle John's a bad footballer, and I'm not saying that Kyle John will never be good enough to be Everton's right back. He's a very good footballer with a lot of potential in the future, but he's not ready to play Premier League football as of yet. If he was, we'd be talking about Kyle John replacing Seamus Coleman, not John Joe Kenny replacing Seamus Coleman. Hakim says, morning Cam, morning my mate. Jason says, hi Cam, not good news with Ireland in decline. Coleman needs to retire from internationals. I seen a couple of people suggesting that yesterday, and a couple of people not being so happy with those suggestions. Listen, ultimately, we all know, as much as we all love Everton, and as much as Everton is our number one priority, or certainly the majority of our number one priority, the majority of Evertonians is Everton the number one priority. We all know that. Again, we would like to think that players would put club before country, but that's not the case in football. Seamus Coleman, when he was a young lad playing football over in Ireland, wasn't growing up thinking he wants to play for Everton. He wasn't growing up thinking, oh my God, my dream is to play for Everton. Yes, again, he loves the football club and he's an Everton fan, he's been here so long, but his dream growing up as a kid, kicking the ball about in the park, would have been, I want to play for Ireland when I'm growing up. Same with James Rodriguez in Colombia, same with Richarlison with Brazil. We know how much Richarlison loves playing for Brazil. So the reality of the situation with Premier League footballers and any footballer really is their dream, more often than not, yes, you will get, some footballers that are playing for their club that they've grown up and supported and loved, and, that's their priority. But most footballers, more often than not, their number one priority will be, to play for their country. And it's so easy to sit here and suggest, right, now's the time for Seamus to retire from international football and put Everton first. But who's to tell Seamus Coleman that that's what he should do? He might be looking at thinking, hang on, no, I want to be a part of, I want to be playing a World Cup. I want to be a part of Ireland's qualifying stages to try and get to a World Cup. Like I said, I don't think Seamus will retire from international football. Should he? Maybe from an Everton point of view, yes, probably, because more often than not, when he goes away with Ireland, he picks up an injury. But again, you can't tell him that, can you? Damien says, alright, Cam, mate, I knew this would happen. Now we have to rely on Kenny. We're going to be weaker on the right-hand side. Do you think we'll go for Aurier now? A lot of talk about Aurier. A lot of talk. Obviously, a lot of Evertonians have been throwing his name in the hat. There's been a lot of suggestions about it. Obviously on social media, Twitter, etc. I don't think Serge Aurier will sign for Everton, personally. I don't. Obviously, he ripped up his Tottenham contract on deadline day. And there was a lot of talk about, okay, he's a free agent. Go out and bring him in. He's Premier League experience, this, that, and the other. The issue I have with Serge Aurier is he's not a great defender. He can be very rash, i.e. making bad decisions in bad areas, i.e. giving penalties away when he shouldn't be giving penalties away. And he's good going forward. He's not great going forward, but he's good going forward. And maybe for a year, 6 months, contract, bringing somebody like a Serge Aurier in wouldn't be the worst of deals, certainly given the fact that, obviously, as we're talking about today, Seamus has picked up an injury. But I just don't think the club will do that. I think Serge Aurier would probably want a lot of wages, and will probably want guarantees that he would be playing first team football every week. And I would think that when Seamus is 100% fit and ready to start, if Serge Aurier was to come in, I think Seamus would be starting in front of Serge Aurier, even being perfectly honest with you. So I can't see that happening personally, but there you go. Talk about Ireland, he says, Tom, yeah. Serge Aurier in by Friday then, says David. I don't think so, but we'll wait and see. If you're enjoying, by the way, hit that like button. It only takes a second if you're new. Don't forget to subscribe. Really do appreciate it. Hacken says, not sure I trust Aurier, but there isn't many options now. We need to get Aurier or escape the bones in the release list, says Jason. Basic says, morning, I see the Everton experiment continues. It does, mate. It's always on. Basic, mate. It's always on. The Everton experiment never stops. Never ever stops. Sol says back three with Townsend at right wing back. Maybe against Burnley. Again, for me, against Burnley, you've got to have quality on the pitch. You've got to have players that can unlock that Burnley defence, because they are notoriously a very, very difficult team to play against. They defend really well, and they are a difficult team to break down. And I actually think somebody like a James Rodriguez, who we're going to go on to talk about in a second, would be perfect against Burnley. I think he's got that quality. I think he's got that ability. I think he's got that class to hurt a side like Burnley and to break that defence that other players mightn't be able to break. We'll wait and see if he's in the squad, of course. We'll wait and see if he's in the team. We'll wait and see if he's at the club at this point, to be honest with you. But maybe Rafa will do that. Again, like I said, we don't know the extent of Seamus Coleman's injury. Because he might come back from international duty and it'll have just been a slight knock, and with a couple of days training he'll be okay to start against Burnley. Or it might be something that's going to keep him out for 2 or 3 weeks. Like I said, there's a lot of suggestions about him retiring from international football. My suggestion to Seamus would be knock it in the head now, because it's affecting you. Everton are the club that pays you. Everton are the club that you play for. 9 times out of 10 you play for Ireland, 1 out of 10. But like I said, it's easier said than done. It's easier said than done to go to a player who's dreamed of playing for his country all his life and say, do us a favour and retire so you can come and play for us every week without any injuries. And I don't think the club would suggest that to Seamus Coleman, because of how loyal Seamus has been to Everton and because of how much of a professional Seamus Coleman is as well. David says, how much freedom does Brands really have? He's had a strong-minded managers and had a strong-minded owner, so how easy is it for him to get players in positions he hasn't asked to fill? Yeah, maybe. And like I said, I think, I've seen a lot of people saying it's been an awful summer. We didn't sign a right back. It's been an awful summer. Yes, we didn't sign a right back, which is, again, as I've said, shocking. considering we've known we've needed one for over 2 years now, in my opinion. But the lack of right-back signing doesn't necessarily mean, for me anyway, personally, maybe other people disagree, but for me personally, the lack of right-back doesn't necessarily mean it's been a bad summer. Bringing in Demarai Gray for £1.5 million that's the type of business you'd see in a car booty, or like on wheeler dealers, where they go in and they find something for $50 and it ends up being worth about £455 million because it's the best thing ever. That is unbelievable business for Demarai Gray. Fantastic. And then we've brought in Anzos Townsend for free. Workhorse, works hard, accurate crosser of the ball. Great for Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Asmir Begovic, good, solid backup Premier League goalkeeper. Solomon Rondon, really good backup striker for Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Andy Lonergan, obviously, will probably never wear an Everton shirt, but again, he's experienced. He'll help out on the training ground, etc. So, for all of those 5 players, including Demarai Gray, who's been electric, for £1.5 million, we haven't broken financial fair play. We haven't, took a risk on financial fair play. We'll put ourselves in a much better position next summer because we haven't spent anything this summer. And we've gotten rid of Moise Keane, who wanted to go, and we'll get money back from him. And we've got his wages back. We've got rid of Bernard, who we'll have his wages back from as well. A couple of other players that obviously have been out of contract. So, given our financial constraints, which we've known about for a while, taking away the right-back situation for 1 second, I think it's been a really good summer. The right-back situation does put a massive dent in it because it's a failure of the football club and it's a failure of Marcel Brands because he should have gone out and brought in a right-back this summer. Gary says he'll be fine, and if he wasn't, we'll be fine. I'm glad we didn't waste money on a third, fourth, just right-back in a flux of panic. We'll be okay with what we have. Well, that's a good point, actually, and this is something that I'd say to anybody that's sort of just, in Marcel Brands' defence, and this is something that we spoke about the other day as well. In Marcel Brands' defence, how far down that list do you go looking for a new right back? And by that, what I mean is, speaking to John Blaine a couple of days ago, and he said, well, I suppose it all depends how far down Everton's list of right backs Seamus Coleman was in himself. And by that, what I mean is Everton might have had a list of 10 right backs this summer, but only 4 of them might have been better than Seamus Coleman. Everton might have gone, right, Denzel Dumfries is number 1 priority. We know he's better than Seamus. He's younger, he's athletic, he's this, that and the other. Go out and get him. Right, we've started to get Denzel Dumfries. He wants to go to Inter Milan, and PSV want money up front, which we can't afford. He's knocked off the list. Right, Max Aarons, young, hungry. We know he's better than Seamus Coleman, blah, blah, blah. Right, it's going to cost too much money. He's knocked off the list. Ainsley Maitland-Niles, again, young, come in on loan. Let's go and get him. Arsenal pulled the plug last minute. Seamus Coleman might be 4th in that list. Now, do you then just go and bring in a number 5 or a number 6 for the sake of bringing in a right back, even though they mightn't necessarily be as good as Seamus Coleman? Do you just go in and bring in like a Jabril Sidibe, for example, who come in on loan for the season, was deemed not good enough after the loan, even though we had an option to buy on him? And for the majority of the time he was at the football club, yes, he had a stint where he played for a few games, didn't he? But for the majority of the time, he was the backup to Seamus Coleman. We brought in a replacement for Seamus Coleman for Seamus to be a backup, and the replacement ended up being the backup because he wasn't anywhere near good enough defensively, and Seamus stepped back into the team and shown that actually he's better than this fella. So how far down that list do you go? Do you go to number 7, 8, 9 for the sake of bringing in a right back? Do you spend that money for the sake of spending the money, when in reality, when you put that said right back head to head with Seamus Coleman, Seamus is actually better? And this new player who you've brought in for 5-10 million, whatever, is only going to play when Seamus is injured? Or do you just go, do you know what? the players we identified that are better than Seamus aren't available, so we'll swallow our pill, or whatever the saying is, for this summer. We'll go with Seamus and Jonjo for this summer, and then we'll go out next summer when we've got more freedom, when we've got more money to spend, when we've got, again, when we haven't got as many, when financial fair play isn't strangling us as much as it is now, and we'll go out and we'll bring in one of those top 2 or 3. And that's an interesting way of looking at things, it is. And I'm not excusing Marcel Brands, and I'm not excusing the club, because Everton had money to spend last summer. under Carlo Ancelotti, and we should have been bringing in a right back, and we didn't. Everton had money to spend the summer before, and we should have been bringing in a right back, and we didn't. Everton, just seen a stat before the start of the season, net spend wise, I think Everton are the 5th highest in the Premier League. Only Manchester City, Chelsea, Man United, and maybe Arsenal or someone like that are above us. Then it's Everton over the last 5 years. Now, we've known for a good 3 of those 5 years that Seamus Coleman is either needing replacing, or will be needing replacing at some point. 4 years ago, yes, we might have been sitting here saying Seamus doesn't quite need replacing yet, but we'll have all been having the conversation that, okay, it's going to come to a point where Seamus does need replacing, at some point. So that was when we should have been looking at bringing in a new right back. That was when we should have been going, right, okay, who's available, who's on the market, who's young and up and coming, who's going to be able to come in and, in a year, 2 years' time, when Seamus does need replacing, is good enough to step in and do that job. But we didn't. It's almost like Everton are so reactive, not proactive. And you can't be reactive when you're a Premier League football club. You will never win trophies. You will never challenge at the top end of the league if you are doing your business reactively. And maybe Everton aren't, and maybe I'm just getting it very, very wrong here. But there's been various situations over the last couple of years where I've looked at Everton and thought, that's a reactive approach. You've not seen that coming and sort of gone, right, okay, we'll proactively do something about that before it happens. Or even if you do something about it after it happens, you've done it in a proactive manner to show that there's been planning, there's been a process beforehand. It's all reactiveness. It's not, right, Seamus might need replacing in a couple of years, so we'll go out and we'll bring in a right back now. And people might say, oh, we didn't need a right back this summer, why have we brought in a right back? But in a year, 2 years' time, when we do need a right back, we'll have this young lad who we've already got at the club, who we've loaned out a couple of times, and he's looked brilliant in this, and he can step back in. He can step in, and replace Seamus Coleman. It's like, we don't need a right back now. We might need one in 2 years, but we'll sort that out in 2 years when we need one. It's all reactiveness, and I really don't like that, because I just don't think that's the way to go. And like I said, hold my hands up, maybe I've got that massively, massively wrong, and maybe I'm giving a little bit too much stick to the board, and maybe that wasn't the case, but that's how it seems to me. Damien says, RDA will do a better job than Kenny. Not the best for now, but he must, but he provide cover. There you go. Sombero Numero Uno says, should never have signed him to a new deal. I don't mind the Coleman new deal, to be honest with you. I don't. It's only a year extension. Yeah, I don't mind it, but again, that's not the argument in place here. But I get where you're coming from. If you're enjoying, by the way, please hit that thumbs up button. It only takes a second. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe as well. We are going to move on to talking about James Rodriguez in a moment, by the way. Kev says, John Joe can't cross or blast down the wing. Why? Who Coleman give up, says David. Abigail says, Telefónica was available, and in the final year of his Ajax contract, Ghent offered us their right back, wanted too much money and weren't willing to do a structured deal. Buta was more than quoted. There you go. Sombero says, yes, Coleman would rather see younger players coming in. Damien says, Coleman's our longest veteran who still has something to offer, so why not give him a new contract at the end of the day? Should have had a replacement in. Yeah, no, again, I've got no issue with the Coleman contract. No issue with it. And I agree. I've got no issue with Seamus Coleman staying at the football club. I think Seamus Coleman is good enough to be at this football club. And to be honest with you, I don't even think that the problem with Seamus is that he's not good enough to start week in, week out. It's that he's not consistent enough with his injuries and his fitness issues. Seamus Coleman, on his day, is still one of the best right backs in the country, and I will stick by that point for the foreseeable future, because honestly, I believe that 110% fit Seamus Coleman on his day, having had his rest and whatever, is still one of the best right backs in this country. I've seen Seamus Coleman put performances in last season where I've thought, oh my god, that you are unbelievable. Even at times this season, he's put performances in where you look at and you think, you're spot on, but you just know that he can't keep that up for a consistent time because of injuries and fitness and this, that and the other. And that's where the problem lies, for me anyway. And so it begins. We always get more than our fair share of injuries, says Ian. Yeah, Sammy says, hey Cam, did you hear what Van der Beek's agent said about Everton? No, I didn't, mate. Don't know, I'm not a scout, says David. And Damien says Sombero Numero Uno. And Damien says, don't know why we didn't get Buta for 4 million. That was a rumoured price. Well, who knows? Who knows? Maybe the club deemed him not as good as Seamus Coleman or not as good as John Joe Kenny. And if that was the case, then what would be the point in bringing him in? If he's not as good as our fullback we're trying to replace, and he's not as good as the current backup, then what would be the point? And again, I'm not saying that he is or he isn't. I don't know. I'm just throwing out potential scenarios out there. So anyway, yeah, there you go. Look, obviously we haven't brought in a right back. We know that. The news of today is that Seamus Coleman has picked up an injury in international duty. He has picked up a knock. He will be out of Ireland's next World Cup qualifier in the next couple of days, I believe. We don't know the extent of the injury. We don't know the extent of the knock. We can only hope that Seamus Coleman returns to USM Finch Farm next week or later on this week. I think next week, isn't it? No, it'll be later on. It'll be this week, actually, yeah. Returns to USM Finch Farm this week and is okay and ready to go against Burnley, and the injury was just a slight knock and he was kept out for precaution. That's what we can only hope. Anyway, on to James Rodriguez. The player who we all thought was nailed on to stay at Everton Football Club now, obviously after the summer transfer window. The window's closed, he's not going to move, he's not going to leave. Well, there has been a few rumours over the last couple of days or so regarding James Rodriguez's future. One of them coming from PCA, who said that Turkish side Başakşehir have made a loan bid for to Everton for James Rodriguez. Negotiations between both clubs are ongoing. A couple of media outlets were then reporting that and saying that yes, Everton are in talks with Başakşehir for James Rodriguez, which is interesting to say the least, considering we all were sitting here on Thursday, weren't we, and saying James will be staying, and let's hope we can integrate him into the squad. Look, who knows what's going to happen with James Rodriguez. He's currently over in Ibiza on holiday, recharging his batteries, according to him. I don't know what he's recharging. I thought he would have been fully charged anyway, but there you go. They must be only them cheap ones that you get that only last about 10 minutes. But they are currently, Istanbul Başakşehir are currently 19th in the Super League. They have played only 3 games, lost all 3, so it's only the start of the season. I believe they have got money in some form. I don't know how, I don't know where, and I'm not going to speculate. But I believe they have got money, because my point was how are they going to afford James Rodriguez's wages? But a lot of people on social media made me believe that they wouldn't have any issue with that. So there you go. Apparently, according to Pepe Sierra, who is a Colombian journalist who was quite heavily involved in the rumours of James Rodriguez coming to Everton in the first place, and actually got a lot spot on in that department as well. He has said that Istanbul Başakşehir are in talks with Everton apparently for a loan move for James Rodriguez. Let's wait and see. I think, for me, from an Everton point of view, I think it will be pointless. I do, especially given that Everton would probably be paying his wage, if not the majority of his wage. If you're going to be paying his wage, then why not just keep him at the club and have him work for his place, have him battle for his place, and have him as a member of this Everton squad? Why loan him out, pay him his wage, and then obviously not be able to utilise him as a player? But ultimately, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes at Everton. We don't know. James Rodriguez might be picking up a massive fuss because he wants to, he wants to leave the football club, in any way, shape or form. He just wants to go, and Everton might have looked at it and gone, do you know what? Let's just get him out the football club, and we can, that situation can be done with for another couple of months, and we'll focus on the group of players that we've got here. But interesting one, really. Again, spoke the other day about James Rodriguez's motivation as a player. Obviously, he didn't get his move away from the club, in the summer as of yet. And we spoke about the motivation that he has as a player. Does he have the motivation to get his head down and work hard and fight his way into this Everton team and show Rafa Benitez that he can give it 110% every week? He can work as hard as the other players in the team. He can battle, he can fight, he can force his way into the side. Because ultimately, it's down to James now. If James stays at Everton, it's down to James Rodriguez. Nobody else. I'm sick of these excuses people make of, it's this person. It's James. It's up to James Rodriguez. He's got 2 options. He can get his head down, work his arse off, battle, and if he does that, he'll be in this Everton team. Because let's not rewrite history. Last season, when James Rodriguez played, the majority of the time, he was an absolute game changer. He was excellent. He is technically a world-class footballer. He is the best footballer at Everton Football Club, technically. There's no doubt about it. So if he works his arse off, if he gets his head down, and if he battles, he'll be in this Everton team. Of course he will, because he's got the quality to change games of football. That's one of his options. His other option is to spit his dummy, sit at home playing COD, not be interested in Everton, not be interested in playing footy. And if the latter option is the truth, then where's his motivation? Surely if you're James Rodriguez, no disrespect to the Turkish League or Besiktas, but surely you're looking going, no, do you know what? I'll just get my head down and work hard here, and I wanna fight and show that I can be good enough to play in a Premier League side that are challenging for Europe, and a, a side that, obviously in a league that's watched by millions and millions of people every week. Maybe he just wants to go and have the easy life over in Turkey. I don't know. But the rumours are still continuing about James Rodriguez. We'll never get a break from this, will we? It seems. Apparently, according to PBC, Istanbul Başakşehir are interested in bringing James Rodriguez to the football club on loan, and apparently are in talks with Everton for that deal. So let's wait and see how that one progresses over the coming days and weeks, I suppose. Anyway, let's get into the comments before we finish up then. Can't remember where I was, to be honest. David says, we'll see how much faith Rafa has in John Joe if no player comes in the next few days. Maybe. If you're enjoying, by the way, please hit that like button. If you could get to 30 likes before the end of the stream, that would be great. 73 people watching, 24 likes. If you could get the likes up, that would be perfect. If you're enjoying, by the way, hit the like button. Subscribe if you're new. It only takes a second. We will be back live tomorrow as well, by the way, talking more about Everton. So don't forget to join us tomorrow as well in the morning. Subscribe and hit the notification bell if you haven't already. Abigail says, Dave has played there a couple of times last season and did well. I'd be happy to play him over Kenny as he's quicker and better on the ball, but more likely Holgate will play there. If it's not Coleman or Kenny, it'll be Holgate or Godfrey, in my opinion. Unless we play a sort of wing backs, and then it might be Iwobi or Townsend. If we play with wing backs, obviously, we'll wait and see on that one. Sean Beardo says, definitely he'll play one of the centre backs as right back. Yeah, unless we play wing backs, of course. Adam says, heard on here on Toffee TV a few times that Calvert-Lewin to Arsenal will be a step down. I have to say, I think it's one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard. Arsenal have been in the Champions League for the best part of 2 decades. They haven't, because they haven't been in it for, 5 years now? 6 years, something like that. And one more in 1 season than we have in 25 years. I don't think he would go, but to say it's a step down is a madness. I think, on the basis of this season, Arsenal are rock bottom, lost 3 games, minus 9 goal difference. Everton are joint second, 1-2, drawn 1. So it would be a step down on the basis of that. I get where you're coming from in terms of Arsenal as a club and this, that and the other, but forget Arsenal as a club and where they were 10 years ago and what they won 10 years ago. Arsenal as a team are, if not a step down from Everton, a sideways step for Everton at the moment. What is Dominic Calvert-Lewin going to achieve at Arsenal that he won't achieve at Everton? That's what you've got to ask yourself. And I don't think Arsenal are going to win anything this season or get anywhere, especially with the manager they've got in charge now. Arsenal can't make a good bid anyway, says Sean Beardo. Abigail says, would have liked Van der Beek. Cam, I don't understand that decision by Oli, never used him. Well, look at the decision about Sergio Romero last season. Manchester United don't want to... It's mad because the rumours last summer were that, Man United wouldn't let Sergio Romero come to Everton because they saw Everton as a direct rival. Now, that makes me laugh a bit, really, because Man United should be seeing Manchester City as direct rivals. They've just brought in Cristiano Ronaldo, Jadon Sancho. They'll be fighting for the league this season with City and Chelsea and Liverpool, etc. Everton aren't a rival to Man United at the moment. Everton are, Man United could strengthen Everton, and Everton wouldn't be anywhere near Manchester United. We saw that in the pre-season friendly at the moment anyway. So I don't really see where this Man United are worried about Everton strengthening Everton because they're a rival sort of argument, because I don't think Everton are a rival to Man United at the moment. Yeah, if it was Chelsea interested in them or Man City or whatever, yeah, but I don't get it personally. Adam says, we all say how Everton on the whole is in a mess on and off the pitch. Compared us to Arsenal is ludicrous. Well, Arsenal are a mess on and off the pitch as well, so there is the comparison. David says, Turner 1.34 escort into a Cosworth, lol, Kenny into Cafu. Gavin says, well done, Brands. Abigail says, Patterson had to self-isolate, but Rangers wouldn't sell anyway. Denzel Dumfries only wants a move to Inter Milan. Well, yeah, listen, Patterson wanted to join Everton and would have been an Everton player, in my opinion, had Rangers had allowed him to. Gavin says, Seamus ain't good anymore, plays like a third centre-back, he's so narrow in defence, opposition wingers have so much space. Damien says, I got the feeling United and Arsenal didn't want to do the business with us because we were the forefront against the European comp they tried to start. Maybe, that's I love, how we love a little conspiracy on the channel, that, you could have hit a nail on the head there, Damien, my mate. Gavin says, should have spent the Iwobi money on a right back. David says, there's the nail. Sidibe was used over Kenny. We sent Kenny out on loan to get games and used Sidibe. All our money has gone on poor midfielders wanted by previous managers. Nkunku was pre-planning, there you go. Gavin says, Kenny was awful in Scotland, never mind the Prem. Ida says, Cam, when you score a goal playing football, what is your go-to celebration? Don't really have one. Usually I head to me inhaler, because usually I'm gasping for air, so the old inhaler celebration. Gavin says, Brand's out. If he was a manager, he'd be sacked by now. We are going to do a live stream on Marcel Brands over the next couple of days. Maybe tomorrow, actually, we'll sit down and we'll talk about Brands as a whole. David says Brands works under a completely different remit. He has got some diamonds. Let's remember he's having to unpick the Koeman / Walsh disaster. Yes. 352 Alex Iwobi right wing back says Dan Boy maybe. He also says Aurier gone anywhere yet? I don't think so. David says no. James Rodriguez wants to move to Ubisoft United. Interesting. Seven says, I'm hoping and thinking Coleman's withdrawal is a precaution. It's pointless him playing on Wednesday. It wouldn't rule him out of the Burnley game just yet. I agree, mate. I agree. Listen, and I've said that multiple times today. Let's not speculate about how serious or not serious the injury is. We don't know. It might just be a knock, and he might be all right today, and he's just taken out as a precaution, like we said. Basic 6 says, if you haven't liked the team, you may be a closet red. Just saying. There you go. Nobody wants to be known as a closet red, so hit the like button on the stream. Adam says, if Arsenal are in a mess, how are they the biggest spenders in the window? Yeah, but we don't have a pot. I get where you're coming from. FFP has massively constrained us this summer. And look, we've spent ridiculous amounts of money on awful players over the last few years or so. But look at Arsenal. 50 million on Ben White. He's not worth 20. 40 million on a backup goalkeeper and Aaron Ramsdale, who's been relegated 2 seasons on the bounce. Martin Ødegaard is a decent player. Is he worth the money they spent? I don't think so. Lokonga's a good signing, to be fair. Lokonga is a good signing. Who else did they sign? I'm sure they signed somebody else that, again, baffles me that they spend that much money on a player. Somebody will let me know in the live comments. Who else did Arsenal bring in this summer? Adam said, yeah, that was it. So anyway, look, there you go. Look, we're going to finish it up there then. If you have enjoyed this live stream, please do hit that like button. It does only take a second. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. Like I said, we are going to sit down tomorrow. And you know what? We'll talk about Marcel Brands tomorrow. Why not? Because he is the topic of everybody's conversations at the moment. And why not sit down and try and gauge a general feeling about how we're all feeling towards Marcel Brands and himself over the 3 years that he's been here, and of course for the next 3 years that he is contracted to be here anyway. Whether he's here or not for that period of time, we'll wait and see. But if you have enjoyed this one, please do hit that like button. Massive thanks to everybody in the live comments for getting involved. Really do appreciate it. If you're watching the YouTube video, get your thoughts in the comments down below, and we will get involved with as many of them as we possibly can as well. Like I said, subscribe to the channel. We'll be back tomorrow morning with another live stream, and yeah, if you have enjoyed this one, leave a like. Massive thanks to everybody for getting involved, and we will see you soon on the Mighty Blues. Cheers for watching. See you after.